And now I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Which INFOSEC Certification Pathway is Right for You? I'm going to hand things over to our two featured presenters today. They are the hosts of the Sensuous Sounds of INFOSEC podcast, Ben Malisow and Robin Cabe. Ben and Robin, you now have the floor.
Thanks, Mayanne. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Sensuous Sounds of INFOSEC, where we discuss all things information, all things security, and all things information security. I'm Ben Malisow.
And I'm Robin Cabe.
And Robin, this is our very first live episode of our podcast.
Holy smokes.
And you know, this is usually where I'd, at least if we'd not start consuming alcoholic beverages while we were doing a podcast. But out of consideration to New Horizons, who asked us to be here, and the amount of money that they're paying us, I thought it would be good that we didn't drink today.
They're not paying us anything.
I'm sorry?
They're not paying us anything.
Why are we doing this?
Well, Sam asked us to do it.
It's a favor to Sam. Sam Mulford Phillips, our great friend and colleague of many years, who we affectionately refer to as Queen Cersei, requested this. So we are here. We're honored to be here. And when the Queen asks, you do. Our topic today, talk about routes to certification, different kind of certifications based on your career path and what might be right for you. Let's get to it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. Oh, we had a couple of polls too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Mayanne, if you don't mind,
Sure.
The first poll we wanted to ask, how many people are expecting to get an INFOSEC certification in the next 12 months?
All right. Let's see here. Just a second here, folks. Are you planning? Here you go. Let me launch the poll here. And as Ben said, the question is, are you planning on getting an INFOSEC certification in the next 12 months? Give everyone a few seconds here to answer. All right, a few more seconds here. All right, and I will be closing the polls, and we have an astounding 45% saying yes, 17% saying no, and we have 30% saying they're not quite sure.
Outstanding, excellent. All right, cool. Well then, hopefully if you have questions about a particular certification, especially the ones that we're gonna cover, feel free to ask them. And then I think we'll do the other poll a little bit later when we ask which certs people are actually looking at.
Perfect, sounds good.
But let's jump into it.
Sure.
All right. Hey, yes. Keep going. Oh, I wanted to point this out. New Horizons made a giant mistake when they asked us to do this seminar. They gave us their entire slide deck of templates, and they have some really cool templates. So throughout the presentation, I'm just going to include random templates of slides I couldn't think to fill anything with, but look really awesome.
I love it.
So yeah, go ahead. All right. So I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to make you wait until the end to talk about a pathway for certs. I'm going to put that right up front. So if you only want to listen to this 5 minutes and drop off, that is completely up to you. Last year, I was teaching a course in Denver, and I got together with another instructor that I really, really respect. And we actually brought this idea up. We talked to each other and said, what would you recommend to a young person? Either someone just leaving high school or someone in college deciding to go after an INFOSEC career. What order of the certs would you recommend? And big shout out to Mohammed Malki. This is what we both came up with. We both agreed this would be a great pathway. We started by saying, go with the CompTIA stuff, A+ or Network Plus. At the time, I wasn't even aware that IT Fundamentals was a current cert available from CompTIA.
I believe I actually found that because with regard to the poll, I'm interested in getting 1 or maybe 2 certs this year. I initially started studying for the A+, but being a total dingus when it comes to IT security, I decided to look for something a little bit easier, a little bit more introductory, and IT Fundamentals does that.
And it seems kind of perfect for that routing.
Yeah.
As a segue into the field.
It has a lot of overlap, but it's a very good overview. So if you have no idea what you're doing, that might be a great place to start.
Yeah. So I recommend start with those CompTIA ones. They're a good foundation. Then SSCP is an excellent first cert to get specifically for INFOSEC. It comes from ISC squared, and I'm going to talk more about ISC squared later. But they're kind of seen as issuing sort of the gold standard. They're the older body in our industry in terms of issuing certs. So I'd say start there. Then go over to ISACA. And ISACA is usually more governance related than technology related. And go for either the CISA or the CISM. Just get one of them. You don't need to get both. And then from there, as you start to progress and mature in your INFOSEC career, go for the Sec Plus, the CompTIA, and I'll talk about that one. And I'll actually give you my personal anecdotal experiences with each one that I've earned, which is most of these, sadly. Go for either the Sec Plus. Also, you might want to pick up the CCSK. Very straightforward compared to some of the other ones. And then finally, when you're really buffing out your career, go with CISSP or CCSP. And I don't know why we don't have it on this slide. We were supposed to. But after that, or along this timeline, I also recommend getting some vendor-specific certs. Maybe Cisco if you're into networking, or one of the cloud providers such as Azure or AWS if cloud is more your thing. And do this as you're building your career. Don't jump in right at the top. However, if you have 20 years of experience in IT, don't start with fundamentals. That's superfluous for your purposes. Jump ahead and jump in wherever you think is appropriate for you.
That's why the little bar there says time plus experience.
Oh.
You can look at it and see where you are.
I made a good bar, didn't I?
It's a great bar.
Thank you. All right. Now, what's the reason most of us are doing it? Well, having the letters after your name is very cool, and it's nice to have something to hang on your wall at home or in your office even. But the real reason that we want to go and get certs, for the most part, demonstrate what we know and what we've learned, and use it for career progression. Get the next job up, get that promotion you were looking for, or market yourself a little bit better. Most of the certifications that we're going to be talking about, and the ones that are listed on this slide, satisfy the DoD 8570 requirement. And that is the US military's list of which certifications from the industry satisfy certain job taskings, meaning people can't be hired for those tasks, for those jobs, for those roles, unless they have one of those certs. And while the US military is not the largest employer in the world or the only employer in the world, a lot of other entities, US FedGov, US contractors, a lot of other folks in the IT world kind of peg themselves to 8570, so it's an excellent baseline for most other hiring entities as well. Yeah. All right, so you're the one that started with fundamentals. Do you want to spell out? I have no knowledge of fundamentals other than what you've told me.
Yeah, well, again, I started trying to prepare for the A+, but was feeling a little overwhelmed because I am not an IT professional. And so I found this cert. It's a very good overview, and there's a lot of great resources online that are free to study it.
That's our favorite price.
The exam has a maximum of 75 questions. It's multiple choice. It lasts 60 minutes. The passing score is 650 out of 900. There is no experience requirement. Again, it's very fundamental. It might be a little boring if you already have some experience in the field. It's available in English, and the price is $123 US.
Very approachable. It seems doable. And I like that passing score too.
And you can take the test online or on Pearson VUE.
Yeah, and I wanna say this like right off the bat. Most current providers have gone to online testing, especially in a world with pandemics and lockdowns and whatever. It only makes sense to offer online testing. Some of them will be more rigorous than others. Some require a monitor or a proctor, someone who actually watches you through your webcam while you're taking the exam. But the one that doesn't is ISC squared. They are still making you go to Pearson VUE testing centers, regardless of what area you're in or what condition you're in. And that is onerous. That is really complicated. And those centers have cut back on their testing times, and their schedule is really hard to fit into. And I've had some students who've had unannounced postponements of their test dates. So I do like CompTIA and some of the other ones here because they are offering the online testing. Excellent. All right. Do you want to introduce A+ too? Because I think you started looking at CompTIA, A+ and Net+ before deciding on fundamentals.
I did, and because these CompTIA exams are very great at the beginning of your InfoSec journey, I was looking into a lot of them. I was following the CompTIA Reddits to see what people were saying. The A+ is a little bit of a beast because it is actually 2 exams, commonly referred to as the Core 1 and the Core 2. They have fancy codes that are associated with them, but you will have to pass both of these exams to earn this certification. So the Core 1 covers mobile devices, networking technology, hardware, virtualization and cloud computing, and network troubleshooting. And then a separate test, the Core 2, covers installing and configuring operating systems, expanded security, software troubleshooting, and operational procedures.
I'm not sure I could pass those.
I honestly couldn't tell you what half of that means, just reading it off like that. But if you go to the CompTIA website, they have a ton of information about what the test is going to be like. And they have a great outline of the material that will be on the test, which is an awesome study guide.
What I will say, yeah, about the CompTIA exams, I have looked at them, and including the Security Plus, which we'll talk about later, which I did earn, they publish their own study guides for free for their test takers, which is a lot different than the other providers too.
So this exam, well, both of these exams are 90 questions maximum. What are you doing?
I'm trying to minimize that. So,
sorry, everybody. Technical difficulties. One moment. Ooh, hang on.
there we go.
Okay.
Okay. There you go.
We're back. So there are 90 questions per exam. The questions are going to be multiple choice, both single and multiple response.
I hate those.
And also drag and drops and performance based, which I'm not as familiar with.
They might show you a chart or an illustration and say, drag the firewall to where it has to be located, or where is the DMZ on this graphic. I find them awkward. And I really hate multiple choice questions where they'll give you 7 possible and they'll tell you to pick as many as apply. And you don't know if that's 2, 3, or all 7. That's tricky. Those are hard.
Yeah, you have to know the material pretty well to succeed with this. So it's 90 minutes per exam with a passing score of 675 to 700 out of 900.
I don't know what that means. That's what CompTIA had on their site.
Yeah, I don't know. You'll have to ask somebody who actually knows about this stuff. The experience requirement, they say, is 9 to 12 months. How do they verify that?
I think that's more of a recommendation than a requirement, but okay.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I will admit, when I first started studying for the A+, I got a little intimidated when I saw this experience requirement, because again, I have none. But that is what led me to take a look at the Fundamentals Plus. But I was understanding a lot of the information in A+. So if you're just starting out, don't be too discouraged. You can definitely be getting experience while you're studying for this exam. It's available in English, German, Japanese, Portuguese, Thai, and Spanish.
Nice. It's accessible.
Now, you're going to have to pay for both the exams to get this cert. $226 US per exam.
Now that to me, for an introductory level exam, that seems a little challenging.
It's a little bit of a barrier to entry.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but some employers will pay for this cert.
A lot of employers will pay for a lot of certs because it makes you more valuable and more roles that you can take on. Like, again, talking about the 8570, the DoD instruction, they can plug you into more jobs if you have more certs. Or if you're a contractor, they can bill you out at a higher rate if you have that cert for that role. So yeah, you might want to ask this during the interview process while you're looking for a job. Is education and certification something that the company is willing to pay for? And also ask definitely the education part. A lot of providers out there, maybe even New Horizons, offer preparation courses for trying to take exams. So ask your employer if that's something they're willing to invest in as well, both in terms of them paying for the exam and giving you the time off to go and do it if you don't have to charge it against your vacation days as well.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, I'm a very good boy.
So this exam, again, it's CompTIA, and it will be available online and at Pearson VUE.
Correct.
So.
All right, I'll move that.
You can't see it, but on our screen we have some windows floating around.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to the Network Plus.
You looked at this one as well, right?
I started to. Most of the advice that I saw, both through official sources like CompTIA and also through the subreddits that I followed, strongly suggested focusing on the A+ first, and then either getting both the Network Plus and Security Plus, or just picking one and specializing in that area for a while.
Okay.
So I'm not as familiar with this one, but Network Plus, the exam is 90 questions. It's multiple choice and interactive. Fancy.
That's those drag and drops.
You've got 90 minutes. That's a question per minute, y'all. You gotta keep up the pace. Passing score of 720 out of 900. The experience requirement, A+, and 9 to 12 months in networking.
And I think, again, that's more of a recommendation that they make, that you're going to do better if you have that foundation already.
And that is the advice that I saw from a lot of folks who have taken and passed this exam. It is available in English, German, and Japanese. And the price is a whopping $329 US. Available online and at Pearson VUE.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I want to talk about this one for a second. This is one I've got. I actually got it later in my career, and the reason I went to go get it is because I wanted to teach the course. I was actually teaching this at University of Texas, San Antonio.
And for the folks who are listening to this, we are talking about Security Plus.
Well, they should see it.
They should, but if they're listening to our podcast,
oh, the podcast,
later,
they don't see the graphics. I didn't even think of that.
Right?
So all of my smirking and eyebrow raising is totally ineffectual on the podcast.
I don't even know if our audience can see us right now. I think they can only see our slides.
Oh,
but,
that's a shame.
But tell us about Security Plus.
I'll talk about Security Plus. All right, so Security Plus is another CompTIA cert. And strangely enough, it's kind of treated like the little sibling to some of the other bigger ones like CISSP or CISM or any of the Cisco stuff. Honestly, I found it extremely challenging, very detailed and granular. Unlike a lot of the ISC squared stuff, Sec Plus, it's the only one of all of them that I failed the first time I took it. Yeah, I know, right? I know, it's shameful. They require memorization of things like port numbers related to particular protocols and services. And that's just not me. I'm not a hyper techie guy. I'm much more on the policy and risk side. So don't go into Security Plus thinking that it's a pushover. It is challenging. And if you earn it, you are really reflecting that you've accomplished something. And they keep revising the criteria every few years. I got very lucky that when I took it, they were hoping just to get people taking it, so I get lifetime Security Plus. I don't have to renew mine or maintain it or anything like that. Today, if you go and get it, you do have to maintain the credential by earning continuing professional education credits, annotating those, and it is something worth having. It is recognized. So I wanted to get that out of the way first.
It's nice to know that a certification is recognized.
Yeah.
So similar to these other CompTIA Golden Trio, there are 90 maximum questions. The questions are going to be multiple choice and performance based. You've got 90 minutes to take the exam with a passing score of 750 out of 900. Is anyone noticing a trend here?
Yeah.
The experience requirement, Network Plus, which also requires A+, and 2 years experience in the field.
Particularly of security, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're definitely seeing a progression amongst those 3 CompTIA certs. Languages are being updated in November.
Yeah.
Currently, only English and Japanese are available.
Well, okay, here's the thing is they're revamping the exam next month. They're issuing a new version. And when the new version comes out, only English and Japanese will be available. If you take it now, English, Japanese, Portuguese, and Simplified Chinese are available because it's the older version of the exam. Run out and get the cert this month if you're thinking of doing this. It's only going to get harder.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a pro tip right there. It's available at Pearson VUE and online. And if you are thinking about taking the test quickly, online will probably be faster. So, all right.
Okay. SSCP. This is sort of what's considered the junior ISC squared cert. And ISC squared, again, is seen as kind of the golden standard for our industry certifications. I do teach this one. I did go get this one particularly to teach. This is the second most current cert I have. I got this, I want to say, 1.5 years, 2 years ago, fairly recently. And I'll be frank, I didn't treat it with the significance that it deserved. I thought, oh, I teach CISSP, I write stuff about CCSP, I can do this, I don't have to study. I went in and I sincerely thought I had failed. Walking out, I really believed that I had tubed it. It was hard. And I'm going to say this frankly, if you feel prepared to take the SSCP, you might want to take a crack at the CISSP. Ostensibly, they're supposed to be very different. SSCP is supposed to be for a practitioner level, where CISSP is supposed to be a seasoned security manager level. I didn't see the test questions that way. I saw them as almost equivalent. And when I teach the courses, I see about 80% overlap between SSCP and CISSP. CISSP has about 20% more detail on things like crypto. They talking about particular algorithms and things like that. But in general, they're very, very similar. If you are really nervous and if it's something you want to try and get your feet wet and you've never taken an ISC squared exam, go ahead, give SSCP a try. Know that it's challenging. Know that a lot of people don't pass the first time, and there's certainly no shame in not being able to tame this beast. It is rough.
So the SSCP has 125 questions that are multiple choice. You will have 3 hours to take the exam, so more time to struggle. Passing score of 700 out of 1,000. Hey, that's easier math for me. That's like 70%.
Almost, yeah. Now you want to hear how it's complicated?
How?
125 of the questions don't count towards the score, but they don't tell you which 25 they are. They're trying to determine if the question should be used on future exams or not.
That's sneaky, but I
is.
like it.
Yeah.
All right, so the experience requirement, 1 year in the industry.
Yeah, and they will verify that. Any of the ISC squared certifications requires endorsement by another ISC squared member who currently has a certification. And we can talk about that process a little bit later on. Don't let that freak you out too much. It's not as complicated as everybody else makes it out to be.
The exam is available in English, Japanese, and Brazilian Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
The cost is $249 US, and it's available at Pearson VUE testing centers exclusively.
And only at Pearson VUE testing centers. And again, the price, I think, is, if you're looking at an introductory level, the price is a lot more appealing than the other ones. You're going to see a huge spike in the ISC squared cert prices as we go on talking about the other certifications.
Oh boy, brace yourselves.
And I just really like this slide. This is a cool slide.
This guy has certs.
Right? He's probably got something good. All right. So in no particular order, we'll go right to CISSP. The one that's probably the big granddaddy of all of our INFOSEC certs. Can you move that?
Oh,
it's the first one I got, oddly enough, and I got it like 20 years ago. It's hard. It is very, very hard. ISC Squared stopped publishing pass rates a couple years ago, so I really don't know how many people pass it versus how many fail. I can tell you anecdotally, only based on my student self-reporting, that is, students I've had who have contacted me afterwards and told me whether they passed or failed, which is a smaller sample than students I've had, which is a smaller sample than everybody who takes the class. I'm seeing about a 60 to 80% pass rate. But these are self-selected people who've gone through a whole prep course and exerted a lot of time, effort, energy, and money on studying up. So it doesn't represent the community at large.
they also probably had a really good instructor.
Of course they did. Well, I mean, it gives them an unfair advantage. There's no doubt. Don't take this one lightly. This one is hard. And again, don't feel bad about failing it the first time.
You have between 100 and 150 questions.
This is an adaptive test as opposed to straight up, straightforward testing, which means that as you answer questions incorrectly, the test will show you more questions from that topic area in order to either confirm you don't know what you're talking about or give you another opportunity to demonstrate, oh, I just got that one wrong and I actually do know this subject. So don't panic if your test stops at 100 questions. Don't freak out if it goes to 150. I've seen people fail at 100. I've seen people pass at 150. That doesn't reflect whether you're actually making it or not.
Do you think that they structure the tests this way just to make them more thrilling?
No, I think they do it because creating test questions is really a pain in the neck. And this allows them to minimize the number of questions they reveal. It allows them to have a smaller test bank. And supposedly this works more accurately from a psychometric testing standpoint. I don't get all that, but there's actually a PhD on staff at ISC Squared who designs these things and builds these things. The test used to be 250 questions long over 6 hours. When it was straight up multiple choice. It was grueling, and you weren't allowed to go to the bathroom without someone escorting you and monitoring you in the bathroom.
Dang, this whole testing culture is very peculiar.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It's kind of a cult.
So your questions are going to be multiple choice and interactive.
Yep.
You will have 3 hours to take the exam. That's a good amount of time.
And it's a nice chop from the 6-hour marathon that they used to do.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, do you find that most of your students need the full 3 hours?
It's really interesting. Most of them say they race through it, and they do it in about 2. Don't use that as a yardstick of whether you're doing well or not. It's your 3 hours. You paid for the 3 hours. Go slow. You can't go back over questions on an adaptive test. Once you submit the answer, it's done. So you can't review what you're answered already. Take your time. Slow down. Read the full question. Absolutely essential.
I think it's nice to know that anecdotally, a lot of people take about 2 hours, but you have an extra hour, so you can afford to slow down.
But if you find yourself taking longer, don't use that as a metric against other people you've never met and what they do for their testing. Don't do that.
All right. Well, the passing score is 70% because I can do that math. The experience requirement is 5 years in the industry.
Yeah, and they will verify that. You do, again, have to get an endorsement, and we can talk about all that later, too.
It is available in English. The price, wow, is $699 American. That's a jump up in price there.
Yeah, and that's why, a lot of people find this one intimidating and should. And if you fail it the first time, you have to wait a certain amount of time before retaking it. And then if you fail a second time, the duration that you have to wait before retaking it again is extended. Again, they're trying not to reveal questions to harvesters who might publish them online.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Just bear in mind too that this $700 exam here does not include the course prep.
Correct.
That is just the cost of the exam.
Yeah, all of these slides, it's just the cost of taking the test. Yeah, yeah.
It's available at Pearson VUE.
For your dining pleasure. All right, CCSP. I took this one about 4 years ago, about 2 years after it was created. Again, I had already had the CISSP and the SEC Plus. It is very challenging. It does, obviously, it's very cloud-centric. That's what it's for. It is a joint effort between ISC Squared and the Cloud Security Alliance. In terms of it being cloud-centric, the cloud content that they're going to discuss is mainly academic or philosophical, not vendor specific. So they're not going to ask you, how do you configure this on AWS? How do you do this on an Azure platform? They won't get into that level of detail. It should be vendor agnostic. There's a lot of overlap between CCSP and CISSP. I would say a good 40 to 60%. So if you already have your CISSP or you got it recently, you're really on your way to getting a CCSP. And it's become one of the fastest growing certifications that ISC Squared has. You may want to go ahead and grab this one. And the nice part about it is, because it is vendor agnostic, no matter what an employer is looking for, it kind of stands in for the other cloud-based certs that you would get from one of the big public clouds.
So this one is going to be 125 questions. They will be multiple choice. You will have 3 hours to take the exam. Again, about how long do you find your students need?
About 2, and some of them faster. I took 2. I took about 2 hours and I want to say 10 minutes, something like that. And I took a long break halfway through because I was convinced I was failing. I was absolutely sure I was failing the thing. It had been 20 years since I had, or 18 years since I had taken my CISSP, and I was just that rusty. And there wasn't a lot of good study material at the time. There were very few books about CCSP, so it was a tough one. Yeah.
All right, so again, this one, passing score is 70%, or 700 out of 1,000 for those who are mathematically inclined. The experience requirement, also 5 years in the industry.
The nice part is, if you already have a CISSP, you just need an endorser to say, yes, you are who you claim to be. You don't have to go and demonstrate the work experience again.
It's available in English. It costs $599 American to take the exam, and it's available at Pearson VUE.
And let me say one more thing about scheduling these things with Pearson VUE for the longer exams like the CISSP and the CCSP. Because it's a 3-hour block, and because Pearson VUE schedules all sorts of certifications, like for nursing students and engineers and all sorts of other industries, finding a 3-hour block in a Pearson VUE testing center can get really challenging. And you may have to plan a month or 2 out beyond what you wanted to do for study purposes. Make sure you schedule it early, and that's between you and Pearson VUE. ISC Squared doesn't have any control over that.
So,
Oh, CISSA. Yeah, the next one is the one I know more about, CISM, but ISACA certs. I got the CISM. It is very, very similar to CISSP. Again, a lot of the content overlap. More governance heavy. It comes from ISACA, which is a group of auditors. So you'll see a lot more about policy and programmatic solutions. These are the creators of the COBIT framework. So you'll see questions about that. Don't ask me to spell it out because I don't remember what it is. Yes, and the latest instantiation of COBIT is tragically named COVID-19 for the year 2019. Really bad to say quickly in conversation under current circumstances.
You got the COBIT?
COVID-19. I got it all trained up here, you know.
But this slide is about the CISA.
Yes, CISA. CISA and CISM very heavily overlap. One is more for a practitioner level where the other is for a managerial level. Pretty much if you study for one, you're studying for the other as well. They're just based on the number of years of experience you have. That's about it. And I've taught both of these as well for ISACA.
So for the exam, you will have 150 questions. They will be multiple choice. You will have 4 hours to take the exam, which seems
more than enough
generous.
time. More than enough time.
All right.
If you know the material, 2 hours is more than sufficient.
Passing score is scaled 450 out of 800. How's that work?
I have no idea. I took this directly from the ISACA website. I don't know what the heck they mean there.
Okay, well, kids, go ask a teacher. You'll need 5 years experience in the industry to take the exam. It is available in English, Chinese traditional, Chinese simplified, French, German, Hebrew, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Spanish, and Turkish. That's pretty cool.
They want people to get their certs.
Dang, yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Mad respect.
The price is $575 for an ISACA member and $760 for a non-member.
And usually when you go get the cert, you become a member. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Available at PSI testing centers and online.
Yeah.
Oh, and well.
Yeah, and then I put, yeah. They're basically, yeah.
The CISM.
Yeah.
It's basically the same.
Basically the same, and I'm trying to remember what I think the difference is in the amount of experience required. That's all. Oh yeah, same as the CISA. There you go.
Pardon me, I'm slipping on my slide duties here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving on to the CCSK.
Okay. Yeah, this one's provided by Cloud Security Alliance. It's a lot different than a lot of the other experiences that I've had. I just got this one this year. I got it earlier this year, in January or something.
Honestly, folks, I've completely lost track of all of the certs that he gets and which ones he teaches about. It's a lot of alphabet soup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has anyone considered giving these exams like really cool nicknames like the laser dragon test?
People say CISSP for CISSP. I think that just sounds like
Scissorp.
Kind of dumb. Sorry. I'm sorry. It just does. No, I really think they should have thought out the acronyms a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very awkward, unfortunately.
So tell us about CCSK.
It's a lot more straightforward. They've always been only online, which is great because they're cloud-based cert. They're a cloud-based organization. They are very much a proponent of cloud-based testing. It is open book. For those of you unfamiliar with that colloquialism, that means you can have any resources at your disposal while you're taking the exam, including the internet. If you want to do a web search on a particular question, you are completely allowed to do it. Some people hate this. I have known a lot of people who get vapor lock when they're doing an open book test because the amount of resources that they can search through causes them to freeze up. They second guess themselves. They second guess their response on every question. They keep looking and reading into the question something that's not there. Don't do that. Just have the resources open and available, have Control F ready to go, and find the answer, submit the answer, and go on to the next thing. Some of them are challenging because they have that multiple response in the multiple choice thing, but it's a short exam, straightforward. Make sure you have a good connection. You're in a quiet location, because once that timer starts, you don't get another crack at it.
I mean, the open book test sounds reflective of real life, where we all have computers in our pockets. And along with that, the total vapor lock that comes from making any decision in the age of the internet.
And if you ever work for an employer who says, tell me which algorithm is best without ever looking it up, go work for a different employer, because that employer is just dumb and you're going to go out of business at some point.
All right, so the CCSK has 60 questions. That's a lot shorter than these other exams. A lot shorter, a
lot more approachable.
Multiple choice, 90 minutes. It's a decent amount of time.
Yeah, but they're still challenging questions. They know that it's open book. They know that you can search for the answer. They're not all simple and straightforward.
Passing score, 80%. I like that. That's a clean round number there.
It's challenging though.
I believe it. No experience requirement.
Nope. No. Just go ahead and take it. You don't need to maintain it. You don't need to get continuing education credits. And the price is pretty approachable too.
It's available in English for $395 American, and it's only online.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very modern.
Yeah.
Very modern test.
I dig it. And I teach that one too. Okay, this is one that wasn't in the pathway. This comes from SANS. It's the SANS GSEC or GIAC certification. There are a whole bunch of them. And SANS, I gotta say, I've never taught for SANS, but they are recognized in the industry. Every student I've ever had, any colleague I've ever had, all say that SANS professors, instructors are phenomenal, world class. We know one of them, one of our friends, one of my former folks that I went to my school, knows these things and does these things, created their forensic program for them. Really super expensive, really intense. And a lot of it will be practical. You'll actually have to, you know, whip open your laptop and actually do some of the stuff while you're doing the class. But I hear it's very well worth it. You end up learning the stuff in the class more than just what you need to pass the exam. So it's definitely well worth the time, effort, energy, and money.
So the GSEC has 180 questions that are multiple choice. You will have 5 hours to take the exam.
Brutal.
Passing score of 73%. I mean, this sounds like a really intense test.
Yeah.
No experience requirements.
This is their introductory one, and they have a whole table of very specialized ones as well, and they go up from there.
Languages?
Yeah.
Question mark?
The other thing about SANS and some of these other certification bodies is they treat this information like they're state secrets. Like they don't want you to have the knowledge about the exam. They'll have 3 different websites, all for the same provider, all in the same domain, and they won't just have a straightforward table telling you what prices are. It took me hours to build these stupid slides simply because I had to find each of the bullet points.
The price is $2,000 US.
Yup.
This is intense.
That's a little chunk. Yeah.
Remote proctored or Pearson VUE.
Yeah, again, meaning they're going to watch you through your webcam while you take the exam.
So creepy. I like it. All right. So on to AWS certification.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention a couple of the vendor-specific certs. This is Amazon's. They have 3 different categories. This particular example, these bullet points go to the category for Certified Cloud Practitioner.
The number of questions?
Couldn't find it. They didn't say. They didn't publicize it.
They will be multiple choice and multiple answer.
Mm-hmm.
You will have 90 minutes for this exam. The passing score is
They'll tell you when you're done.
There's no experience requirement. It's available in English, Indonesian, which is Bahasa.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that. Cool.
And then I misspelled Japanese.
Japanese.
Okay.
Korean, and simplified Chinese.
Obviously, the cloud vendors right now are very strong proponents of getting global participants. They definitely want as many people certed up as possible. Look at the price.
$100, and it's only $20 for a practice test.
Very doable, and they're trying to get certified people, as many as they can globally.
It's very cool.
Very cool.
That seems a lot more
see,
doable.
yeah, and we'll see the same thing with Azure, I think.
The testing is available in a testing center or online proctored. So Azure.
That's Microsoft's cloud, same kind of thing. They got a whole bunch of different certifications, including Azure Fundamentals, how to use their cloud.
So you'll have 30 to 40 questions for each exam, 60 minutes available with a passing score of 700. The experience requirement is none. That's convenient. Available in English, Japanese, Chinese Simplified, Korean, Spanish, German, and French for $99.
And in recent days, recent weeks, I've seen them discounting it. Microsoft discounting it down to $15. They're giving it away. Yeah, go and get it. Just grab it anyway. It doesn't hurt to have it. I should go do that next week.
You should go do that.
Okay.
It's available to take at Pearson VUE and online proctored.
And this was just another really cool slide.
Arrows. This slide is meant to reflect you choosing your
it's just a cool slide.
your InfoSec career pathway.
No.
Instagram?
No. All right, Cisco, huge networking vendor. Their tests are seen as incredibly grueling, including the CCNA and CCIE. Again, finding this information on their own website, very awkward and difficult, but this is what I was able to find.
Approximately 120 questions. They will be multiple choice, both single and multiple answer, drag and drop, fill in the blank, and testlet.
I have no idea what testlet means.
It's a tiny test.
It's a tiny test.
It's like a puppy. You'll have 2 hours to take the exam.
Only 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. 2 hours for 120. Dang, you gotta speed through that. That's tough when you're having to fill in the blank.
Oh, it's awful.
Passing score approximately 800 to 850
and
out of.
I don't know what that means when they say approximately.
Again, state secrets.
Uh-huh.
The experience requirement is, we're not sure. One year of experience with
Cisco products. Yeah, that's what Cisco recommends.
Okay.
Because it's vendor specific.
Available in English and Japanese for $300, and you can take it at Pearson VUE or online proctored.
All right, that's the end of our content. This is the time for the shameless self-promotion part of the presentation. I wrote a book about, at the time, all of the certs that I had taken and what I consider to be the foot stompers. The things that I tell my students, this is what you need to know for the exam. Forget all the, don't worry about getting all the other stuff. This is just for passing the test. It's only $10 in electronic format on Amazon. It's a bit more for paperback because they charge to print it. Go and grab a copy if you're going to go and try to take the exam.
It's cleverly titled How to Pass Your InfoSec Exam, a guide to passing a variety of certifications which are listed.
Yes, I should update that now for the CCSK too.
Heck yeah.
And I got a new book coming out next month. It has nothing to do with certification or testing. It's just about my views on privacy and probably where I kind of foresee the technology going and our civilization going.
And I have been privileged to read an early draft of it. And I gotta say, even without a lot of experience in the InfoSec community, I found it totally fascinating, and not just because I'm biased.
Yeah, because you're biased. It's totally because you're biased.
No, it dives into some pretty interesting topics. If you want to get in an argument with someone, read this book.
That's really good.
All right,
and then we're going to hand it back to Mayanne over at New Horizons to tell you about how great New Horizons is for test prep.
Thank you so much. I will say this was one of the most engaging webinar sessions that I've been sitting on. So thank you for that. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to just type it in now, and then we'll get to that in just a second. So don't be shy. Enter in any questions that you have here. Just wanted to say, if you're interested in the material that Ben and Robin presented in this webinar, or if you have any questions really just regarding what's available to you in terms of cybersecurity courses and test prep, please contact your local center for more information. Just log on to our website at newhorizons.com and do a quick zip code search for the center that's nearest you. Just so you know, New Horizons has been delivering online courses and classes since 2001. So we've been around for a while when it comes to online learning, and our facilitators are great. They're trained to engage and our learners and encourage everyone to participate in the class. Also, as I mentioned, we are doing a month-long cybersecurity awareness month webinar series. So if you haven't already registered for anything in the next 2 weeks, please go to our website and just see what else we have coming down the pipeline in terms of webinars. And also, don't forget, I'm recording this session, so make sure to send that to everyone later today so you can have a recording to share, review, pass on to anyone who you think might appreciate this information. All right, I'm going to dive into some questions, Ben and Robin. Let's see. Our first one here is, what are your thoughts on the CompTIA, I think it's Cyber SA, CISSP Plus?
Yeah, the new one coming out. I honestly don't know anything about it, and it is going to be a big thing in our industry. So unfortunately, I just don't know.
Awesome. The next question is, do you think the Pen Test Plus is a good cert?
I've never taken it. I'll be honest with you, I've heard from a lot of people who have, and this is anecdotal and strictly opinion based. If you don't know anything about pen testing, if you don't know anything about the industry, this is sort of like a novice or civilian's glimpse into being a hacker. It's cute, it's fun, you don't really need to have any prior knowledge to go and get it. It doesn't actually mean that you're a pen tester. It doesn't actually, I don't think it's widely accepted by the industry as being indicative that you have the skills. But I don't think it's too onerous or difficult. So,
would studying for this exam and taking it and passing it maybe be useful in discovering if that's a direction you want to take your career in?
Maybe, perhaps. I think they scratch the surface. They go over a couple of the tools that may be useful in pen testing. But if nothing else, it'll get you some practice taking certification tests. And that's not a bad idea. And I heard the class is just fun to take too. So
yeah, I might want to do that one at some point. Pen testing sounds really cool. Whoever's thinking about taking that class, let's talk.
Awesome. Another question that came in is, what types of jobs does one typically get with an INFOSEC certification?
It's funny, we talked about this earlier on the podcast, and there is a huge wide array of things that you can do in our industry. That might include defense. So working in a security department, protecting an IT environment from attack or subversion. You might work in pen testing, which is the opposite side, pretending to be the attacker to try to break people's security so that people can enhance their own environments. You might work as an auditor, determining compliance against a particular security standard. You might work in the application or systems development side of the house, offering security insight as to what should that piece of software or that piece of hardware include to make it more protected from possible attack. There are so many different things you can do in this industry, and the really, really beautiful part, I think, is even 30 years after we basically started as a genre, if you start working in one area and you demonstrate capacity for being able to be an INFOSEC professional, you can change lanes. And it's very easy for an employer or somebody else to give you the opportunity to stop what you're doing and go work on something else. Right now, I would say if you have the capacity for any of this, go into digital forensics. I think that is the way of the future. I think there's just money to be printed there because that's a huge part of what we're going to be tasked with doing.
And again, shameless self-promotion, but yeah, our very first episode of our podcast was actually about different career paths and certs. Just scratched the surface, but if you want to hear us ramble a little more about some of that, you might check out our first episode. And then we also try to do interviews with industry professionals that talk about what they do. So we designed it to hopefully be a great resource for people who are trying to explore the field and figure out what direction they want to go or where they might like to pivot to.
Excellent. Yeah.
Awesome. A couple more questions here, as I know we're getting to the top of the hour. Which companies are asking for AWS certifications, and why would an IT pro need an AWS cert to begin with?
Excellent question. Every company that's considering migrating or has migrated to the AWS platform, which is a lot of them. Right now, senior managers can't get to the cloud fast enough because they think that it's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that they didn't have to pay for. They're wrong. And there's still a lot of risk there and still a lot of cost there. But depending on whether someone's picked Azure, AWS, or Google, Rackspace, whatever they pick, they're going to want their personnel to be certed up in that thing, because while they're all fairly similar with the underlying infrastructure and the way that it's accessed, the functionality of each is somewhat different. And they're going to want you familiar with that in a way that you can demonstrate your familiarity. And the cert is the thing. And it's bigger than any other certification that I've ever seen in this industry, going back again 20 years. 3 years ago, when they were still doing live classes for these things, I want to say, yeah, it was Amazon had their annual certification conference in Las Vegas. The Vegas Strip had to be shut down because there were 50,000 attendees taking certification classes. And when they were crossing the street from their hotel to the convention center where the classes were, they blocked up traffic for up to an hour. It was insane. 50,000 people. The biggest class I've ever taught was a 2-day ISC squared class at RSA, which is a huge conference. And that was 75 people, 80 people, something like that. Yeah, AWS is pretty huge. But if you go Azure and if you go Google or Rackspace, you're not going to harm yourself either.
Awesome. And one last question to round out the hour here. What security cert do you recommend for a Linux system admin who may not necessarily go into the INFOSEC field?
SANS. SANS actually includes discussion of Linux in it, the way I remember, and they get pretty detailed. And the SANS tests are also open book as well. I think they give you a great foundation for systems security. They're also the entity that publishes the top 20, which is the list that we all look at each year, the top 20 vulnerabilities that IT professionals or practitioners should be aware of. So yeah, if you're not quite sure where you're going to go yet, I'd say start with SANS. The problem is that cost, and I'm not sure if that cost is actually the exam itself or if it's the course and the exam. So you might want to look into that a little bit more.
All right, we are at the top of the hour, and thank you again.
We're going to keep going if people have more questions.
I know. You know what? You answered all the questions, and thank you everyone for submitting your questions. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Ben and Robin, again for presenting on behalf of New Horizons and just for having a very compelling and engaging discussion surrounding INFOSEC certifications in general. So really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today as well. With that being said, the webinar is complete and ended, and you may now log off. Take care, everyone.
Oh, can I add one more thing?
Sure.
Feel free to hit us up, connect with us via LinkedIn, visit the website securitize.com. We have a contact form there too. And feel free to get in touch with us if you have any further questions or you want more insight or anything else.
Awesome. Thank you again, everyone. And thank you, Ben and Robin. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
This was really fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. This was a really good session. Thank you again, everyone.
Thanks.